Hi, everyone. I'm not in my building this summer, so I decided I would take my kids to breakfast this morning to Dunkin' Donuts and people watch to see how they communicated. Um, there was a lot of nonverbals, mostly because people didn't really know each other. It was fun to watch and to see how people sent out their messages and how the people received the messages. They were sending from behind the counter to the customers, between the customers, and between the employees that were working. When I first walked in, I was able to see a lady taking orders behind the counter, and there was a line of people. And the first gentleman at the front was an elderly gentleman, and this lady was super nice to him. She was smiling, and she was, talking maybe in a different voice for him to make sure he understood. She was pointing out items on the board so that he got the right order. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, she's really happy. She's really nice to customers. She's happy to be at her job. Then it was our turn to come up there, and I had three kids who ordered two donuts each, so it took them a little while. And she was not as happy to serve the kids. She was very poker-faced, showed no emotion at all. She was patient, but just with no looks on her face at all. She just waited for my kids to order. And they took so long, I kind of turned behind me to see how the people in line behind me were feeling about the kids taking a while. And the first couple behind me were, again, poker face, like not being rude, but not smiling or saying anything. The lady behind them, though, you could see like her sympathetic smile on her face. She looked at me like, I have kids, I know they take a while. So that was great nonverbal communication between me and the people standing in line between me, or with us. So the lady that took the order was over here, and then the guy who delivered the orders was on the other end of the counter. And when we got to end to him, he was super happy. He was smiling. He made eye contact. I had heard him have to apologize to a customer before me, and he did it with eye contact. He did it with a smile. His voice was kind. His face was kind. And I felt like it made people not mad because of his facial expression and the tone of his voice. And my kids even went up to ask for water, and he was very good with them, showing them the size of the glass, and is this the size of water you want? And just his communication skills were good with his eye contact and his tone of voice, and waiting for the kids to answer and making sure that they got what they wanted. I was thinking that they're in a good position in their job. Like whoever chose where they stand in their jobs did a good job, because she was maybe better at taking the orders and he was better at delivering them and possibly apologizing if anything goes wrong. There wasn't a lot of verbal communication behind the counter. There was a lot of nonverbal, where they kind of had to look at each other and maybe touch each other's shoulders so that they could get around each other. Lots of smiling. The employees seemed happy with each other when they were at work. There was some verbal, like, excuse me, or I'm behind you, or maybe a question answer. And when they did that, they looked at each other in the eyes. It was kind of noisy back there, so I suppose they had to look at each other's faces to be able to hear what they were saying. My kids sat at a table and talked and ate together, and that kind of caused some communication to happen with the people who were all sitting there. There was people who would walk by and they would smile at the kids, or they would say, oh, hi, kids, or bye, kids, and my kids would say hi or bye back to them. It was, kids seemed to make people want to smile and communicate with each other. Back to the lady behind the counter, I watched her have no smiles for a lot of customers that came up. She just was very robotic. She just ordered it, put it in the computer, and sent them on their way. But every time there was an elderly couple or an older gentleman that would come up, she was super kind to him with her face and her eyes, and her words to them were words that they knew that she knew that they would understand, which made me think that she's a good person to work with older people. Like those must be the people that made her happy more so than the kids who took a while to order. One man walked in and saw how long the line was, and his whole body slumped. He went, oh, and I saw his face go, oh man, he kind of worded to himself. But he stood in line anyway. That was a big sign of his nonverbals, that he was disappointed that there was such a long line. Every time that, they brought in another person to work at the counter to take orders on two registers, and that made the line stand up taller. The people were like, oh, that made them happy. They kind of smiled. They got up to the counter and they kind of cracked jokes with the people, and you could tell the whole feeling of the line got a little bit better just by the way that their bodies were standing and their smiles and their communication. There wasn't a lot of inconsistencies, except for the lady who you could see the types of people that she preferred to work with. Most people, if their bodies looked like they were disappointed, then they really were disappointed. And if they were smiling and happy, that was because, the people behind the counter made them feel happy. It was fun. It was a fun assignment to have, to go people watch for a while. I like people watching. I think I covered everything. Thank you.